Danny, I have to say this to you. I have to ask you straight. Is it over for Liverpool in terms of title defence?
Yes. The title's over, I think. Just concentrate now on bouncing back, showing some resilience and getting that top 4 spot. I don't think the performance as a one-off in isolation was a worry or a concern. They were well in the game at 1-1 till Alisson had his mad moments. The problem's been Burnley, Brighton, West Brom, Newcastle, those performances which were, there was a lethargy about them. They were flat, Liverpool, in recent weeks. Probably a bad, 4, 5, 6 weeks even. They've had a bad spell for lots of reasons. But that performance yesterday, it wasn't a 4-1 game. I wouldn't be concerned in isolation with that performance. Just what's gone on the weeks before. They did show some fight and energy yesterday. They were better. It was a good, even game for 50, 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So they've got to bounce back and quick because they've got some big games coming up.
Well,
Really
they sure
big
have,
games.
Danny. Danny, somebody gave me this stat before we came on air. Can you believe this? This absolutely stopped me in my tracks. Since they both joined the Premier League in 2018, Alisson has made more errors leading to a goal than Kepa at Chelsea.
Well, that's a classic manipulation of stats, isn't it? Because he's played God knows how many more games than Kepa. Is there a stat there of how many saves, game moment saves or game saving moments he's had, and how many points he's saved Liverpool to qualify the other statement? It's just using stats how you want. If anyone wants to question the impact of Alisson on the football club and their defensive unit, then they need to look at the league table for 2 years, where Liverpool had the best defensive record for 2 years, and he was a massive part of that. 22 goals against the 17-18 season and 18-19, 33 when they won the league. So let's get it right. I mean, he's still a top keeper. He had a horrendous day at the office, make no doubt about that. But
yeah,
throwing stats about mistakes, comparing him to Kepa, who's played a third of the games, or half the games that Alisson's played.
Well, I must admit, and Danny, we appreciate your frankness. Yes, he says the title defence is over. I don't know if you go with that, Simon. You may not. But I mean, Jurgen Klopp was saying that Alisson had cold feet. Not about cold feet going on. He had cold feet because he had cold feet because of the day.
The problem for Danny's argument is that if you look at the stats, he's played 76 games and Kepa's played 72. So that doesn't quite bear out Danny's philosophy there. But as far as the performance and as far as the whole dynamic of that game, from the performance of Liverpool through to Jurgen Klopp's very strange interview after the game, where I watched, fortunately for me, which I found fascinating, the end of the storm on Friday evening. Watched it, found it fascinating insight into Liverpool, their build-up towards their ascension to the top of the Premier League and all that went with it. And yet I saw none of that spirit in that performance against Man City. Yes, he's right. 2 goals from Alisson flattered to deceive the scoreline. But Liverpool are a poor imitation of themselves. They seem to be disembodied with any spirit or any energy. And their manager's interview after the game, I found very strange. He went straight into guessing what Jeff Shreves was thinking. And, in terms of presumptive thinking, he turned around and said, we played well. You clearly don't think we did. And Jeff Shreves hadn't even said anything before he made that observation. I thought Liverpool were, when teams have hangovers, they bounce back. Liverpool have had hangover for a period of time. They bounce back, they beat Tottenham, and yet they go out again and look very lacklustre again. They're nowhere near what they were. Now, that may well just be a byproduct of a cycle because everything is cyclical and people are making a lot out of the fact they've been fantastic for 3 years. Fascinating comments from Roy Keane, clickbaity but engaging when he talks about the fact that they've become bad champions, because that's a very incendiary comment from a former Man United captain, but it's also going to the fact that Liverpool in the last 2 months have been quite poor. Nowhere near themselves.
It wasn't really like watching paint dry, though. You said that yesterday. Simon, it's engrossing, is it not?
For the first 30 minutes, that was absolute turgid crap. It was bland. It was if we want to nuance it and say for the purists that the observer should watch technical construction of a game, I don't think that's what sells the Premier League around the world. What sells the Premier League around the world is blood and thunder football with goals and intrigue. What we saw was It was like watching 2 defensive fighters in terms of.
But you get 5 goals. If somebody said you before the game,
Jim,
you get 5 goals. I mean, Danny, you played the game at the highest level. Was it turgid? Was it?
Look, it wasn't great. I get that, but City haven't won at Anfield since 2003 because most of the time they've gone there and tried to go toe for toe and press them high up the pitch and get battered. They've nicked a couple of draws more recently, but they were they were and carry on what they've been doing, which is really good, really hard to beat, not press particularly high and build their way into the game, which is what they did. But I agree, it was poor to watch for a neutral. But from a tactical perspective, it was spot on from Man City. You know, Liverpool still have the capability, if you go after them, of hurting you with the pen. And actually, Liverpool had the best chances first half.
Yeah.
You know, they had the two best chances. I know Man City missed the pen, but it was an even game.
What do you think? What do you think of Thiago? Because he seems to have slowed. I mean, he's a quality player, but does he fit into the framework of what Liverpool were or what they may well become?
I'm struggling to find the argument about Thiago slowing the play down. It's a narrative that people have jumped on because one or two people mentioned it. He passes the ball more forward and more through the lines and more progressively than any other Liverpool midfielder. He's got the capability of opening up defences more than any Liverpool midfielder. Now, if Thiago had walked into that Liverpool team that was winning, playing well alongside maybe Henderson and Fabinho, or whoever, you know, the two of the normal three, he'd have looked, or you wouldn't have this narrative going on. He's a superb footballer. The opinion of him slowing it down is because he has this wonderful ability at times to be calm, and slow the game down, which is actually a gift.